Welcome back to the Niner Nation podcast. I'm your host, Evan Nazareth, and I'm joined by one of my favorite people today, Mikala, Harvey, who is the program director for the Office of Leadership and Community Engagement here at the university. So this episode will be focusing on the transformative initiatives that are empowering students, showcasing their success stories, and creating impactful connections between our campus and the Charlotte community. So, Mikala, I'm going to start us off with a question that everyone has been wanting to know about. How are your dogs doing?
Oh, this is my favorite question, and they're perfect. They're great. They had a wonderful little holiday. They're wonderful.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So yeah, we're going into the holiday season. I know you gave them some costumes for Halloween. Do they have anything for this holiday season, or do you have any decorations for your house?
Yes, we decorated for, we do celebrate Christmas, so we decorated for Christmas, and like all of the houses, or all of the rooms in the house are all decorated. They usually get to wear reindeer ears when we decorate, and so I have some pictures of that if you ever want to see them, but yeah, they wear those. They don't keep the sweaters on very long, but we do have sweaters for them, of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So getting into the topic of our episode, so we're here to talk about leadership and community engagement, which is something that we're both very passionate about and find really exciting. So would you like to tell us a bit more about your background and how you came to this?
Yes, like how I got to UNC Charlotte. Yeah. So I am from Kansas, as you know, and I went to undergrad at Emporia State University. I had a communication degree there and minors in leadership and ethnic and gender studies. And so that's really where I developed my passion for leadership and service and getting to know people and supporting people. And so that brought me to get a degree in student affairs administration at Appalachian State. And there I did leadership development work as well and community engagement work. And so from there, I found this job that mixes both of those things, so both leadership and service work. And I was like, I've got to apply. And the rest is history. So that's what brought me here. And I've just kind of stuck around for over 5 years.
That's awesome. So what got you going from communications for your bachelor's over to student affairs?
Yeah, so student affairs is one of those funny careers that you don't really know about until you know about it. And, it's hard to tell people this is a career when they're in high school because it's dealing with college students. And so I went in, funny enough, thinking that I wanted to be a motivational speaker, which is hilarious now that I look back at that. But I did like talking in front of crowds. I loved working with people. And so I found out that this could be a career path, that working with students like I was at the time and helping them grow and develop into change makers in the world was something that I could actually do as a career. And so I was like, you know what, this actually aligns perfectly. Let me just pop on over and get that grad degree. And it was actually a great transition from going from like communication theory to student affairs, and student affairs theory are pretty similar. So
yeah, they align very well. One is just more focused, and in that sense,
right,
which is great.
Yeah.
So you also came from Kansas to here. So I assume that was probably a very drastic change in your life. So what are some of the differences between Kansas and here? What made you choose specifically North Carolina for both your degree and your job?
Yeah, there's a lot of differences. As you've driven through Kansas, right?
I haven't been to Kansas, but I hear it's like not very...
Yeah, usually people tell me they've driven through it. They haven't actually gone to visit, unless they happen to have family there. But lot different, right? Kansas is flat. She's windy. North Carolina has best of both worlds, right? It's got the beaches and mountains. And so my husband and I actually had... one of our best friends, her mom was from North Carolina, and when I was looking at schools, I was like, I can go anywhere, may as well. And so I heard North Carolina was amazing. I'd never visited. And so I applied to Appalachian State and went and visited and was like, yep, I think I'm going to be here. And I loved it while I was there in Boone, but I knew that being in a city is somewhere where I wanted to be. And so when this job opened up at Charlotte, I was like, yes, this is a city. It's in North Carolina, so I'm still drivable to the mountains, drivable to the beach. And ultimately, it's just, I've loved it here. Lots different, though, it's climate-wise, but the experiences here have been really fun.
Yeah, that's why I love it as well.
Yeah.
But being able to just travel
Right.
to either direction,
Yeah.
beaches, mountains, is a huge drastic change that not everyone gets everywhere,
Right.
which is interesting.
Especially, I think, from like in Charlotte specifically, you are not like fully in beach, fully in mountains. You're in the city, and you get to be able to, travel to do whatever you prefer that day.
Yeah, good mix of green space and city life.
Right.
Do you like going on hikes and stuff like that, or doing any water activities?
I like them. I am not all in on any of them. Like, I like to go on a good hike. I love being active, and so like being out in nature is wonderful, but I probably cap that at like 5 miles, Let me just do that's probably the max, and then I'm good. I like to see the sights, but yeah, there's a lot less of that. I've done a lot less in Charlotte hiking because there are less places to hike, of course. But when I was in Boone, I was probably out there as much as the weather would allow.
Yeah.
Be out there.
Yeah, there's some great spots in the mountains, for sure.
You know all the
Color-wise.
places, I feel.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool sites around here, between Pilot Mountain and Mount Mitchell and some other places. But going back to leadership and community engagement, so you're the program director. So do you want to talk about like what programs you exactly cover?
Yeah, so I am now, actually, I shifted to be an associate director, but they're similar in nature. So I look over emerging leaders, which is first year program. Evan has been a part of this. I oversee our serve team. Also, Evan has been a part of this. And then alternative service break is no longer under me, but that was something that I did oversee for 5 years of being here. But now I supervise 2 full-time staff, and one of them gets to oversee that program, and so it's in great hands. And I also teach a class, leadership, communication, and group dynamics. So I get a little mix of a lot of different things.
So is that class for like the leadership minor or major, stuff like that? Can anyone take this class?
Yeah, anyone can take the class. It is a part of the leadership certificate. We don't have quite the minor, but it is a leadership certificate very similar to a minor, 18 credits. So if someone elects to be a part of that certificate program, they have to take my class, but it is also open to anyone. So I usually get a lot of comm students in my class. So kind of a fun throwback, like call back to my undergrad. I get to teach in the department that I got a degree in my undergrad. So that's been fun.
Yeah. So what do you think is like a great outcome of students who go through the Office of Leadership and Community Engagement? Obviously, there's a lot of options, but like some highlights and why you think people should check out the office to begin with.
I think that there's just a little bit for anybody, or a lot for everybody, There's, obviously there's leadership opportunities where you both, if someone's shy and doesn't necessarily know that they want to be right in front of a crowd, I think leadership is still super accessible to them, hopefully, right through our office and our programming. I also think that service is for everyone, and that, we're all a part of a community, right? Whether it be here in Charlotte or somewhere else. I think it's all our responsibility to be a part of it, and, think about what can we bring. How can we make it better than we found it? And so that's also part of my leadership philosophy. And so I think folks who go through our programs are better able to figure out how they can positively impact the world, right? Or, starting local, going big. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think what you were trying to hit on was the fact that we get to learn about a lot of different concepts that are applicable to any major, right? Which is like the active citizen continuum, service-based learning, stuff like that. And I think these are all really powerful concepts that help move students along no matter what their degree is, because it either helps them better be able to manage themselves, better be able to manage other people. Right. And something you touched on earlier is sometimes students don't necessarily view themselves as leaders, but I think you all have to be in a lot of different capacities, whether that be leading yourself, leading other people, and being involved, because there are things going on around us that we should try and look into and be involved in, because everything's interconnected, and whether you're doing something or not, that affects other people. So what would you want to say to someone who doesn't necessarily view themselves as a leader or is considering one of these opportunities?
Yeah. Well, something that I say, a good distinction is not that anyone is a leader, because I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that anybody has the capacity to lead.
That's
and exactly. And so what we do is help build that capacity, whether it's through one of our programs, whether it's serving on an alternative service break, whether it's a part of a class. Any of our touch points are there to help give students, right, those tools to go out and lead. I think that there can be misconceptions. There's also a lot of history to leadership, right, that can be complicated, but I think leadership can be for anybody. It takes work. It's not just something you wake up and do, but it does take work that I do think that our hope, right, is that it's more accessible to students and that they can see themselves in that role if they want to.
Yeah, one of the things that I always say that I've kind of found over the years is that a leader is nothing without training or experience. Like, it takes the time to develop it and be able to have those skills, and sometimes just being able to participate or at least see what's going on is enough to help raise that awareness. For example, like with some of the events we have here, we have serve team events, which are like volunteer events where students can come in and stuff like that. And I saw that there were people leading them, and I thought that would be a great way to just check stuff out and get engaged. So I went to volunteer for those. And then eventually ended up becoming a leader in it, which isn't something I expected to do immediately after my freshman year. But being able to just participate, see, and engage at that level helped me become more confident in the capacity to be able to do those things. So I think, I guess what my point is I think being able to participate, even if you don't think you're able to necessarily lead, is a great way to get engaged.
Well, and the thing is, too, right, Evan, you as a participant, a volunteer, is still practicing leadership, right? Because other folks, even if you're not the title lead on that project or that event, there's still leadership that's happening by being a participant. And so I think that people underestimate the power of leading within an organization or a program. Like, it's easy to want that title on a resume, of course, but there's a lot of power in being an active participant, because that's still practicing leadership.
I think so a lot as well, because you get a lot out of it personally, but obviously making a difference for other people as well is very key in that, because we need volunteers to be able to work on a lot of these pressing issues that are facing the city of Charlotte. So overall, how do you think you've been able to make an impact within your role over the course of your time here, or just changes you've seen in the leadership office over the years that you're proud of in terms of how you've improved in the direction it's going? Yeah,
well, I've had a wonderful team since I've been here, and that helps a lot. Both my colleagues that are full-time staff and the students that I've gotten to work with along the way. None of it would be possible without all of them. But, when I started, my position was brand new. They had never had the role that I was hired on to do. And so my call to action, I guess, was to really build out community engagement. And so I was tasked with alternative service break, whatever that may become, and I was tasked with supervising what were at the time just interns that did service events. And so how that grew was those interns became student directors, and from there became a serve team. And so we didn't have a cohort of students that did service work like that. And so I was able to, with, again, the student leaders at the time, was able to build serve team, and it is what it is now. So that was 2019, and here they are flourishing today. And then it was also, we had no alternative breaks through our office, and hadn't for at least 4 years prior to me being there. And so we started with one alternative break trip, and it grew and grew and grew to 5. And so this year we are sending, I think they're sending 4 total. So 1 in fall break and 3 spring break. And so I believe with that, like, we've been able to see that students really are passionate about service and are passionate about the community. And so there's more programming because of that. And so I think leadership and community engagement is continuing to build out that community engagement side, right? We've had a long history. It used to be Center for Leadership Development, and then we became Leadership and Community Engagement. And so it's just grown to be what it is now. And we have a big staff now, too, so a lot of people doing leadership, service, and mentorship initiatives now. So
Yeah, and I think these programs have become greatly well established in the short amount of time, and they're constantly focused on improving, which is something that I really appreciated about them, is that they really take the feedback to heart and are actually focusing on what is present right now and how that can affect it and bring in, and they get people to come in who are like relevant to current problems as well, members of the community. So I've always thought that's really cool about the office. So overall, what do you like to do outside of your time at the university, or just in general around here in Uptown, in your personal life? What do you like to do?
Yeah, well, I am a social person, so I have a pretty great group of friends here that I spend a lot of time with. So we'll pop around and usually visit a new restaurant or place to have a little snack or drink or something like that. So we love to see the new places. There's also, of course, places we've found that we love in Charlotte too. But there's so much new that's happening in the city, and so we just like to kind of pop around and see those things. But of course, up top we mentioned the pups. So Yogi and River, I'm always hanging out with them. We love to go on walks, and I love to run. That's one of my favorite ways to work out. I like exercise, being outside. Love coffee shops. What else do I love to do? Yeah, those are a lot of the things I like to do. Explore if I can.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you like exploring, outside?
Yeah, I like to be, like I said, I like to be outside. And in Boone, I would be more of hiking and that sort of thing. But I typically, if something's new, I like to check it out. Okay. I'm not great at it, great at many things, but I like to check it out if I can. Yeah,
that's my take too. I just like trying out new things.
Yeah, you do. You try out all the things, and
I think it's important.
Yes. Well, and we talked about rock climbing. I did try rock climbing in a gym, and it's terrifying to me, but it's fun. It's a good little exercise because you're just hanging on really tight.
Yeah, I think it's good to get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it is.
I was just curious about what the bounds of yours were as well.
Yeah, I'm always testing them, I think.
Yeah, that's good. So what do you think is your why for why do you think you're so passionate about the work that you do and the students you work with?
Oh, see, you're turning a question back on me that I've asked you many times. What's my why and why I'm so passionate? I think it's probably personal experience, right? My experience in undergrad was great. I grew a lot. I learned a lot. I went into college in this kind of bubble, certain mindset, things are one way, and was able to think outside the box, be pulled out of, ripped out of my comfort zone, right? And I think with that, I was able to feel the impacts and the growth that I had. And from there, I see the potential in students, like you, of course, and so many of the other students that I get to work with, that I see that there's this growth and this potential that can happen. And if I can be just some small part of that, or give them the resources to make them go and do that, that's the goal. That's my why.
Awesome. So do you have any specific students that you want to share some stories about them, anything that stuck out to you over your time at the university about people who have used the LCE or leadership in successful ways?
There's a
lot of
so
options.
many. I don't know. Should I name drop?
You can if you want.
I don't know.
Or you can just say specific things about them.
Yeah.
I think it's good to just share experiences.
Well, there's a student that I was able to, when I first started working here, she was a sophomore. I was fresh out of grad school, so I was a new professional, and I'm mistaken for a student quite a lot, which is, I like it now. But I was still trying to figure out my way, and she was a sophomore, right? So she was still trying to figure it out, and I was able to see her grow from that sophomore student to she stayed here 5 years, and see her move into various leadership roles, lead within organizations, take the organizations like Alternative Service Break and Serve Team and just kind of take them to a place that I didn't know that they could go without her leadership and her success. And so now she's getting her master's in public health, and she is doing awesome things. And I get to see her really take off and grow, and she's still doing service work in her grad program. And so she's been an awesome one that, when I met her as a sophomore, there was a lot of room for growth, and she would tell you that. And she has. I would also say you, Evan. I feel like, I got to know you as a freshman, and, you've always had great potential, and you've had like this passion, and I think figuring out where to direct that passion. I mean, look at you now, right? You've led a lot of different programs, both within our office and outside the office, and a lot of students have been impacted by you. A lot of folks outside this school. I mean, you know everybody from everywhere. So, not that it's all about that, right? But I've seen you grow a lot in the time that I've known you, from your freshman year to now, and you're going to continue to grow. So there's a lot of students. I could go on and on and on. I don't know how much you want me to go on, but there's so many.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And what I was hoping out of that was, this work really does impact and change them and showcase their potential in a lot of different ways, and opens them up to keeping these ideas in mind throughout the course of their life even, I would say, because as you said, she's been passionate about service over the time and has continued to do so, which is amazing. Yeah, and Mikala does great things as well. Earlier this year, she got the 2024 Staff Employee of the Year Award in Community and Public Health and Public Service. Sorry, not public health. But that's great work here, and being able to change these programs and improve them.
Thank you.
And actually be involved and integrated with the students, which I think is great for a professional as well.
Thank you.
So how would you say your take has changed on leadership in general over the time you've been in LCE? Like, do you view it differently now than when you did coming in any specific ways?
That is a good question. Yes, I'm trying to think of how I would describe how I've looked at it differently. Because I think the basis is the same, right? I think we're here to do the most good, right? To leave a positive impact, make it better than you found it, that sort of thing. I think that I've learned a lot from students, and that I come from my perspective and my lens. But the folks around me, which is a lot of students, right, come in with their own perspectives and their lenses that help inform me and the way that I lead and the way that I'm going to move forward and that sort of thing. And so I think one is confidence. That has, not only have I grown in my confidence, I think I've seen the importance of confidence in leadership, and how I do think that has a big thing to do with how people lead and how they're going to make change. I also think challenging the status quo is something that I'm still not great at it, but I've learned a lot about how to do it and the importance of doing it. I typically am someone like harmony used to be on my top 5 strengths, right? And I used to be let's not ruffle any feathers. And I think to some degree I'm still like that, right? That's still kind of a natural place that I go, but I've learned a lot more about, okay, does it need to be this way? Can we change this? Can we make that positive, or can we make that improvement? Right? Yeah, exactly. And so those are probably the biggest ways that it's just helped me kind of fine tune. Yeah.
Or be more open to it. I would say honestly probably pretty similar in that sense. I think I've learned a lot about how different people like to lead, and attributing and at least recognizing more of those other styles, that they are present and that you need to be able to manage a group of people other than who are leading probably different than yourself.
Yeah, right.
Or at least value different things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge piece of this that we learned between taking different leadership tests and other things that along the way between these programs.
Yeah. Oh, good. I was glad you said that because I was going to ask you how it's changed for you since you were a freshman to now too.
Ahead, as always.
Ahead. Of course you were.
but yeah, I think one of the things that you touched on as well, which is important, at least I would say some of the things for me, is I always like to see how things can be improved. Yeah. So I think kind of the opposite of Harvey, I guess, but like I think both are important. And that's why I think we work well together, because we cover different bases of different aspects of things in order to get things done. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's students like you that are like, well, why do we do something this way? That at first I was like, well, why are you questioning it? But obviously I've learned, right, like, okay, take a step back, Mikala, like, this is great. I need more of this. And I've so learned to appreciate it that I'm like, I need someone who's going to question things kindly, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I need someone who's going to question things on my team always, because that helps me question things and it also helps me not stay in the same
bubble. Things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think both are important.
Right.
So that's good. Do you think you've had any successful events specifically between offices, things that you've held or ran in your time?
I hope so.
Like anything specific you want to share more so, because everything that you have been doing is
successful events or programs or
either
both. Well, so we have done days of service that have carried various topics and various different community partners that we've worked with. Yeah. We haven't done them in a couple of years just because capacity building, right? We've built in systems in our other programs where there's student leaders and that sort of thing to help with it. And the time of year can be difficult, but I believe it's been really successful to hold days of service, and it's fun, right? It's a one-off, and so that's why we've moved more towards those ones that can be more consistent, like ASB and Serve Team. But I think the days of service were successful in bringing people in the door of service. A lot of times it was like, oh, this can be really fun, and we can go out and serve for a day and then do some awesome reflection, of course, after. And that may be the foot in the door that people needed to get started. So those were fun. But I do think some of our most successful programs are the ones that are cohort-based, where students can start to make community with each other. I think that's one of the most impactful ways to get students on board and in the door.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I've seen both sides of that, because I've done some of the days of service and I've done some of the more consistent events. I think the days of service were great in the sense that you got a lot of people there at one specific time. So I think that was good. But I do like what you're saying with the cohort consistency-based stuff, because I've seen the benefit of that as well.
Right. Like you've been on the receiving end.
Yeah. So a lot of my teams who have been able to go through a lot of these things, I know, have been able to still hang out, and I've been able to do stuff with them very consistently over the years across a lot of these programs. I can think of several people who I've talked to even this week across several things about a variety of topics, and I think that's what's special about it.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say too, I think it's people are impacting people at the end of the day, and in the, like, our programs are the vehicle for that. And so that's why I think anytime that people are able to connect and be in community, like, that's where change really happens, I think.
I think so as well. Is there anything specifically you want to accomplish throughout your over the next little while in your role or in your personal life?
That is the magic question. I know we ask you all this all the time. Yes, I think it's always changing. It used to be that I wanted to get my doctorate and kind of move up the ladder. And that may be something I do one day, or maybe a hope I have one day. But I think right now, as far as next steps, I think continuing to do kind of hone in on this like learning and development side of what I do, and how can I continue to refine my skills in facilitation and leadership development and that sort of thing. I would even consider moving beyond higher education and seeing like, okay, what else, how else is this work done beyond
the college level to impact society?
Exactly. And so if there's like companies or businesses that have this desire, right, like to make change and be out in the community, like I would explore that. I love working with students. It would be really hard to leave students, but I do think that it's not as available, in after college.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that's good. I think it's important to assess regularly over the course of your time. And as you're saying that right now. Right. Obviously, it could be different tomorrow. But I think it's important just to have that outlook. And I think what you're saying is interesting, which is important, which is how does it impact it past college to on the larger scale. Yeah. But yeah, so that's interesting. Overall, this discussion's been great, but what do you want people to take away most from this conversation? What should people check out within LCE, their take on leadership, or just how they can best make a difference at the university?
Great question. I think values are super important. So knowing your own personal values, I got an activity for you if you want to know them. But knowing your own personal values is what's going to help and should help guide you to where you want to go and what you want to do. And so if you're on campus, of course, check out Leadership and Community Engagement. Our Instagram is at CLT_lead, where all of our opportunities are. And so I think if any of these sound interesting, obviously we'd love to have whoever wants to be a part of them. But beyond that, just continuing to kind of follow, again, those values that you might hold. And if you're like, I could never be a leader, just maybe question that a little bit. I think you could. And figuring out what do I need to know and what is missing for me to become the best version of myself that can also leave a positive impact on those around me, whether it be on a campus or off a campus or small community, big community. I think anybody has the potential to do that. They just gotta do it.
I think so as well. Yeah. Always be questioning how you can grow and how you can make an impact.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our time for today. Thank you, Mikala, for your insight on leadership and community engagement. Be sure to tune in to episode 6 and follow at @CurrentCLT and at the.Nazareth for updates. Thank you for everyone who's listening to this episode. And if you've been listening consistently, appreciate that. And if you feel you have something cool to share and you want to be on an episode, please reach out to me by email or text. And stay tuned and go Niners.
Go Niners!